Have you ever found yourself at the edge of despair, wondering if anyone truly knows what burdens weigh upon your heart? It is in these moments that a profound truth emerges. God knows exactly what you need, not in a distant, vague sense, but intimately and perfectly. Imagine a creator who, before the foundations of the earth, marked every tear you would shed, every unanswered prayer, and every silent longing of your soul. This God does not stumble over your needs as we often do. Rather, he carries them with divine precision and care. A divine transfer is not merely an event. It is a sacred movement orchestrated beyond the realm of human sight. It is when God, in his sovereign grace, shifts the circumstances of your life in a manner that defies natural explanation. Perhaps it is a sudden provision in the midst of lack, an unexpected peace amid chaos, or an unforeseen door opening where every path seemed closed. These transfers do not always come with fanfare, but with the quiet certainty that the unseen hand of God is working for your good. Yet, this divine movement often requires a season of waiting that tests our faith and strains our hope. It is in this waiting that many falter, believing that silence means absence and delay means denial. But true faith is the stubborn refusal to surrender to doubt. It is the unwavering conviction that God's promises are sure, even when the sky is overcast and the night seems long. This faith nurtures a patience not born from weakness, but from the profound strength found in trusting a God who knows far better than we what is necessary. And here lies a tender challenge, to accept that God's provision may look nothing like what we expect or desire. Our prayers might ask for one thing, but God's answer may be quite different, sometimes gentler, sometimes sterner, always wiser. This wisdom surpasses our fleeting wants and secures a future that aligns with his eternal purpose for us. To embrace this is to lay down the burden of control and to rest in the knowledge that what he gives is perfect, even when it comes wrapped in trials or disguised as delay. To consider that God truly knows what you need is to enter into a realm far beyond human comprehension, where the limitations of time, circumstance, and understanding dissolve before the vastness of divine providence. We often live as though our needs, desires, and pains are invisible to the one who holds the universe in his hands. Yet the reality is quite the opposite. The God who created every star, who measured the oceans and set the boundaries of the winds, also knows the very depths of your heart. He is not distant or distracted, but deeply engaged with every detail of your existence. This knowledge is not casual or accidental. It is rooted in an eternal awareness that precedes the moment you are living now. Before you utter a single word of hope or despair, before you can even fully grasp your own needs, God is already intimately acquainted with them. His awareness is not just factual but personal, as if he carries your worries, your longings, and your burdens as tenderly as a mother holds her child. There is a sacredness in this truth that you are known completely, not just by name, but by the very essence of your being. Because of this divine knowledge, God's timing is perfectly attuned to what you need. Unlike human schedules, which are often rushed or delayed by circumstance and error, divine timing is flawless and intentional. It is neither early nor late, but exactly when it should be. Imagine a clock that never loses a second, that ticks with perfect rhythm, aligned not to human ambition, but to a greater purpose and wisdom. This is the rhythm by which God operates in your life. His moments of intervention are not hurried responses to our demands, nor are they cold, indifferent waits. They are deliberate acts of love, timed with precision. The seeming delays we experience are not oversights or neglect, but opportunities for growth and preparation. When God waits, it is not because he has forgotten, but because He is working behind the scenes in ways invisible to our eyes. Often, the greatest blessings come after the longest seasons of silence. The wilderness is not a place of abandonment, but a training ground where faith is forged and character is refined. Just as a farmer waits patiently for the seed to sprout, so God waits to bring forth what is best in its appointed time. There is a profound comfort in knowing that no detail of your need escapes the attention of God. When you feel overwhelmed by uncertainty or fear, remember that divine providence watches over every moment. It is a protective presence that orchestrates circumstances in ways we may never fully understand. This is not a distant fate or blind destiny, but an active, loving care that governs your life with wisdom and mercy. This divine providence also challenges us to trust, even when we cannot see the full picture. It is natural to desire immediate answers or quick fixes, but true faith requires a surrender to God's timing. Trusting God means believing that His knowledge and timing are infinitely superior to our own, even when it contradicts our immediate wishes. This trust transforms waiting from a period of anxiety to a sacred season of hope. God's perfect timing assures us that nothing happens outside of His plan. When hardship comes, it is not a sign of divine absence, but often part of the intricate tapestry of providence. Sometimes what feels like loss or delay is the very soil needed for new life to emerge. This understanding reshapes how we perceive suffering and trials, not as random misfortunes, but as elements woven into a purposeful design that leads to ultimate good. In recognizing God's perfect timing, we are also invited to reflect on our own impatience. We live in a culture of immediacy, where waiting is often seen as failure. Yet, spiritual maturity calls us to embrace patience as a form of active faith, a discipline that aligns our hearts with the divine clock. This patience is not passive resignation, but a hopeful anticipation, confident that the God who knows what you need will not fail you. Ultimately, the knowledge that God knows your needs and acts in perfect timing is both humbling and uplifting. It humbles us because it reveals how limited our understanding truly is compared to the divine perspective. It uplifts us because it assures us that no matter how complex or desperate our situation, we are under the care of a sovereign, loving God whose timing is flawless. This assurance invites us to live with hope, courage, and a steady confidence that the right moment for change, provision, or breakthrough is already on its way. When we speak of a divine transfer, we enter a profound spiritual reality that transcends the ordinary rhythms of life. A spiritual transfer is a movement initiated by God, a shift so powerful and transformative that it alters the course of our existence in ways that defy natural explanation. This is not merely about receiving something new, but about being changed at the very core, carried from one season into another by the invisible hand of divine grace. Such transfers often happen quietly and unexpectedly, not with the noise or grandeur we might anticipate, but with the steady, gentle assurance of God's presence. They can come as an infusion of strength when we feel utterly weak, a burst of peace when chaos surrounds us, or a sudden clarity when confusion clouds our minds. These moments are the fingerprints of God's intervention, a sacred exchange where what was once lacking is replenished, and what was once heavy is lifted. The nature of these spiritual transfers is deeply mysterious, yet profoundly real. They are evidence that God is actively at work in the lives of His people, moving beyond human effort and circumstance. When natural resources run dry, when human plans fail, when the weight of sorrow threatens to overwhelm, it is the supernatural transfer of God's grace that sustains and carries us forward. This is the divine economy, a system where God supplies not according to what the world expects, but according to his boundless wisdom and mercy. These transfers often mark a turning point in our spiritual journey. Just as water changes its state from liquid to vapor in an invisible yet powerful transformation, so too does the believer experience a shift that cannot be measured by outward standards alone. The heart is renewed, faith is deepened, and perspective is expanded. In this sacred moment, the limitations of the past begin to fall away, replaced by new hope and fresh possibilities. But the arrival of a divine transfer is not always immediate or easy to recognize. Sometimes it is wrapped in trials that test the very foundation of our faith. These challenges may seem like obstacles, but they are often the crucible in which God prepares us to receive greater blessings. Just as gold is refined by fire, so too does God use difficult seasons to purify our hearts and ready us for the transfer he has planned. The transfer is not just about receiving, it is about becoming ready to receive. It is important to understand that a divine transfer is not something we can manufacture or force through sheer willpower or human manipulation. It is the gift of grace, given in God's sovereign timing and according to his perfect wisdom. While our actions and faithfulness can position us to receive, the actual movement is always initiated by God. This humbles us, reminding us that our lives are held in a power far greater than ourselves, and calls us to a posture of humble dependence and trust. These transfers also often come with new responsibilities and callings. They are not merely about blessing us individually, but about equipping us to fulfill a larger purpose. When God transfers his favor, provision, or strength, it is frequently to prepare us for service to impact others, to advance a divine mission, or to walk in a new level of obedience and faith. This means that the transfer is as much about transformation as it is about provision. Experiencing a divine transfer requires discernment to recognize the movement of God amid the noise of life. It calls for spiritual sensitivity, a heart attuned to the subtle ways God speaks and acts. Sometimes the transfer is accompanied by a sudden realization, a confirmation in prayer, or an unexpected encouragement from others. Other times it is a gradual unfolding, a quiet assurance that grows stronger with each passing day. Regardless of how it manifests, the hallmark of a divine transfer is the unmistakable sense that God is shifting things on your behalf. In embracing the reality of spiritual transfers, believers are invited into a deeper faith, a faith that does not rely solely on what can be seen or understood, but on the trustworthiness of God's promises. It is a call to look beyond circumstances and to fix one's eyes on the unseen hand that moves mightily on our behalf. This faith sustains us when the natural is silent, and it empowers us to stand firm when the path ahead is unclear. The nature of spiritual transfers reveals a God who is intimately involved in the details of our lives, and who delights in bringing renewal, hope, and abundance. These moments remind us that we are not alone, that there is a divine rhythm guiding us, and that God's power is made perfect in our weakness. A divine transfer is a sacred promise, fulfilled a sign that the one who knows what you need is already at work, preparing to bring about a shift that will forever change your story. Waiting is perhaps one of the most challenging experiences the human heart can endure. It tests our patience, stretches our endurance, and can easily shake our confidence. Yet, waiting is often where faith is most profoundly forged. When God knows what you need but has not yet revealed the answer, faith becomes the quiet but resolute trust that sustains you through the silence and uncertainty. It is in these moments of waiting that faith reveals its true nature, not as a passive hope, but as an active, living trust that anchors the soul. Faith amid waiting is a refusal to surrender to doubt, a stubborn belief that what has been promised will come to pass even if the evidence is not yet visible. It is the assurance that God is at work even when circumstances seem stagnant or discouraging. This kind of faith does not depend on the speed of the response or the clarity of the outcome. Instead, it rests in the character of God, His goodness, His faithfulness, and His perfect knowledge of our needs. Such faith looks beyond the immediate moment and holds fast to the promise of divine provision. The tension of waiting often stirs a conflict within us. Our human nature desires immediacy. We want to see results, to feel relief, to receive answers now. But the spiritual journey calls us to a different rhythm, one marked by patience and perseverance. This patience is not mere delay or resignation, but a deliberate posture of hope. It is the understanding that God's timing is often different from ours, and that delay is not denial. Every moment of waiting can be a sacred space where faith grows stronger and character is refined. Faith amid waiting is deeply intertwined with trust. Trust is the soil in which faith takes root. When we trust God, we believe that He is both willing and able to provide what we need. Trust does not eliminate the pain of waiting, but gives us the strength to endure it. It reminds us that we are not abandoned in our struggle. Rather, we are held securely by a loving hand that is shaping our lives for a greater purpose. This trust also transforms how we perceive our waiting seasons. Instead of seeing them as empty or wasted time, we begin to understand waiting as a season of preparation and growth. Just as the farmer waits patiently for the harvest, tending the soil and nurturing the seed beneath the surface, so God uses our waiting to cultivate qualities like perseverance, humility, and dependence on Him. These are not incidental lessons, but essential elements of spiritual maturity that prepare us for what is to come. Faith amid waiting requires an active engagement with God. It is not a silent endurance, but a dialogue of prayer, worship, and reflection. In the waiting, we are invited to deepen our relationship with God, to seek His presence, and to listen attentively to His voice. This active waiting shifts our focus from what we lack to the abundant grace already present in our lives. It becomes a time of transformation, where faith grows not because the circumstances have changed, but because our perspective has. The struggle of waiting can also reveal the depth of our faith. It exposes the places where we cling too tightly to control or where our trust is fragile. But this exposure is not to condemn but to refine. In the tension between hope and delay, faith is purified like gold tested by fire. The waiting challenges us to surrender our anxieties and fears, to relinquish control, and to rest in the assurance that God's plan is unfolding according to His wisdom and love. Faith amid waiting does not promise an easy path. The wait can be long and the journey arduous. There may be moments of doubt, frustration, and weariness. Yet the presence of faith transforms these moments. It gives us courage to persevere and peace that surpasses understanding. It helps us to hold on to the promises even when they feel distant, and to keep moving forward when the way is unclear. The role of faith amid waiting is to keep our hearts aligned with God's purpose. It is a trust that looks beyond the present difficulty to the future hope. It assures us that the divine transfer is coming, that God, who knows what we need, will bring it in His perfect timing. This faith invites us to rest not in the outcome, but in the faithful One who controls all things. Waiting with faith is a testimony to the power of God's love and faithfulness. It is the evidence that though we may not see the full picture, we are never outside of God's care. It is the quiet confidence that what we seek is already being prepared, and that when the moment arrives, the divine transfer will usher in a new season of blessing, strength, and fulfillment. Preparing your heart and mind for a divine transfer is not a passive waiting, but an active, intentional process that shapes who you are in readiness for what God is about to do. It is a sacred preparation that aligns your inner being with the magnitude of the blessings and changes that lie ahead. Often, when we anticipate a significant shift or breakthrough, we focus solely on the outcome, the relief, the success, or the provision. Yet, the true readiness comes from what happens inside us before that transfer occurs. This preparation begins with the cultivation of a receptive spirit. To receive a divine transfer, one must become open and willing to embrace change, even when it challenges the familiar. The heart that is closed or resistant to growth will find it difficult to accept the fullness of what God intends. Often, the greatest barrier to receiving is not external circumstance, but internal hesitation, fear, doubt, pride, or unresolved pain that hardens the soul. Preparing for the transfer means softening these barriers through humility, surrender, and a willingness to be transformed. The mind plays a crucial role in this preparation as well. Our thoughts shape our reality, and a heart ready for transfer is accompanied by a renewed mindset, one that trusts in God's promises and anticipates His goodness rather than fixating on limitations or past failures. This mental renewal is an intentional choice to reject negativity, impatience, and discouragement. Instead, it embraces hope, faith, and expectation. Preparing your mind means fixing your thoughts on what is true, noble, and worthy of praise, aligning your perspective with the truth that God's timing and provision are perfect. An essential part of preparing is cleansing and releasing what no longer serves you. Just as a gardener clears the weeds and dead branches to make space for new growth, so too must you remove bitterness, unforgiveness, and past disappointments from your heart. These spiritual and emotional burdens can choke the life out of new blessings. The process of releasing is often difficult because it requires confronting pain and choosing forgiveness or healing over resentment. Yet this clearing is vital. Without it, the new cannot take root, and the transfer will be hindered. Preparing your heart and mind also means cultivating patience and endurance. Divine transfers rarely come as instant miracles without any prior trial or waiting. More often, they are preceded by seasons of testing, refining, and quiet preparation. Developing patience is not passive waiting, but a determined stance of faithfulness, continuing to trust, work, and hope even when the outcome is not yet visible. Endurance strengthens your spirit and proves your readiness to receive what God is preparing for you. Prayer and meditation are powerful tools in this preparation. They create a sacred space where you connect deeply with God's presence and guidance. In these moments of stillness, you align your desires with His will, seeking clarity and strength to walk the path ahead. Prayer is more than asking. It is listening and learning, allowing God to shape your heart. Meditation helps quiet the noise of the world and opens your spirit to divine wisdom. Through these spiritual disciplines, you become more attuned to the subtle movements of God's hand and more prepared to embrace His timing. Another key element in preparing is fostering gratitude. When your heart is grateful for what you already have, it creates a fertile ground for new blessings to grow. Gratitude shifts your focus from lack to abundance, from fear to trust. It reminds you that even in waiting or struggle, God's grace is present. This attitude of thankfulness keeps your spirit buoyant and hopeful, inviting the divine transfer with joy rather than desperation. Preparing your heart and mind also involves aligning your actions with the life you desire to receive. Faith without works is incomplete. Readiness requires that you live in a way that reflects your trust in God's promises. This means stepping forward in obedience, making wise choices, and embracing opportunities that nurture growth and advance your purpose. The transfer is not a mere wish fulfilled, It is a dynamic shift that calls for responsibility and active participation in God's unfolding plan. This preparation is a profound act of partnership with God. It acknowledges that while He is the initiator and sustainer of the transfer, your willingness and readiness matter deeply. You cannot control the timing or the specifics of the transfer, but you can prepare your heart and mind to receive it fully when it comes. This partnership invites a deep humility, recognizing that you are a co-laborer in the divine work, called to steward the blessings entrusted to you. In preparing for a divine transfer, there is also a need to embrace vulnerability. Being ready means acknowledging your weaknesses, fears, and uncertainties without hiding them from God. It is in this openness that transformation begins, for divine strength often meets human weakness in the most unexpected and beautiful ways. Vulnerability creates space for grace to flow freely and for God's power to be made perfect in your life. Preparing your heart and mind for the transfer is a journey of transformation itself. It shapes you into the person capable of handling the new season God is bringing. It readies you to receive not just material blessings or answers, but a deeper experience of His presence, purpose, and peace. This preparation is the fertile soil from which the divine transfer will grow, and it invites you into a sacred rhythm of hope, faith, and active waiting.